The Fed rate hikes 0.5%. One of the biggest rate hikes in 22 years. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on and what that means and what that does for the markets, which was a bit of a surprise, honestly. In other news, Joe Biden attempts to insult the MAGA movement by calling them Ultra MAGA. Because for whatever reason, the entire world has forgotten what happens when you try to insult the MAGA movement and how much they love to go back out and adopt it. In other news, fences are erected around the Supreme Court as they await another night of major protests for what could be coming out of the Supreme Court. So we'll go over just a bit about what's happening with that. And Taylor Lorenz is forced to walk back an allegation against a Drudge editor. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, excuse me. Good morning, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Late start this morning. I have no idea what is going on in Jay Edgar world over here. I laid down about 11 o'clock last night. I had everything set up, ready to go for the morning show. Did add a couple things this morning, of course, but you know, it was another one of those times where I'm sitting back there laying on the bed at 3 o'clock in the morning staring at the ceiling. So when the 6 o'clock alarm rolled around and the 5 o'clock alarm, let's be honest, rolled around both days, my body was not very thrilled about moving. I can just say that. And, you know, unfortunately this time it said, hey, let's go to sleep one more time. And thank God for the 7 o'clock alarm. Otherwise, you guys might be sitting here looking at a screen, refreshing your DLive, saying, where the fuck is he? But here we are. We still have a bunch of stuff to go over here, too. A bunch of leftover stuff here. I got two things that I like and a thing that I hate today. So I think you guys will enjoy this. One of those actually goes on with the major theme of the week. So definitely some stuff to look forward to here coming towards the end of the show. Some fun stuff, too. So we'll talk about that. We've got some nice video here. Hopefully I won't fall asleep during the video. Somebody might have to come over and shake me while we're sitting here listening to, it's Ultra MAGA, man, come on! So, no, I got plenty of caffeine here. Bang Energy, Mio Energy. There's a can of Monster sitting out the kitchen if I need it, if I really am going off of it, and a bag of simple sugars in case we need to go and shoot some extra into the arm. So let's get into it. Let's get started. But before we do, head on over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. turnsofpagesproductions.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, we are going to carry great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Our friend Britt will be joining the network once she has something out there to contribute. Again, because we like Britt and we like what it is that she has to say. Also, go check out and anticipate the fact that we do have a new show that we plan on having join us as well. So go check that out. We will be doing an aggressive fundraising drive starting this month. So Ed Heads, tell everybody that you know. If you would like to see somebody get some news by the common man for the common man, go and check out the Give, Send, and Go, and send them to the webpage too so they can go back and bookmark it. But the Give, Send, Go, givesendgo.com/turnsofpages101 with the express intent of making sure that we get money for our friend Bobby Joe. We like Bobby Joe around here. We want to make sure that Bobby Joe gets paid because we like her. She's a good friend of Liberty. She's great at web development, and She's very, very, very active in our movement as well. Believes in our idea of news by the common man for the common man. So go and check that out. GiveSendGo.com/TrendsOfPages101 if you want to help out. And if you want to get the drive out there, we'll get links out there. I've been hesitant just because of the, the real name thing, but it's time because, we like Bobby Joe. We want to make sure that she gets paid. So go and check that out. All right. Let's get into the news of the morning, starting out with the Dow, which had a mysterious jump up 932.27 points at the very, very end of trading. Now, the future's looking like they are turning back down here. And knowing what we know about where the markets go, usually after a rate hike, I do feel like, again, this is a situation where somebody called in a favor towards the last hour of trading because, look how flat this was throughout the day. And then, hey, we're going to announce a half percent rise on the inflation, making it harder for people to borrow money, except for the ultra fucking rich. Hey, let's all go buy a bunch of stock. I don't buy it. I really don't, but this is the numbers that are being reported to us, bringing us back to 34,061.06. Bringing us back up, by the way, over the 3,400 mark. If we go through the 5-day, that's a 635 point raise. On the month, that is actually a slight fall. But if there was a month to date off of this, we would see that so far in the month, we are up almost 2,000 points on the Dow. So not something to shake a stick at. Very easily anyway, and we'll see what happens with that. Bitcoin had a wild trading session, coming up significantly out of 37,000 territory, all the way up to 39,506.30 throughout the day yesterday. So that is a fairly significant jump off of this. That's what we see coming off of that. And the 5-day even, because the 5-day was slightly lower than where we were now, we're at a $1,845 and 10 US cent jump. That's an almost 5% jump in Bitcoin. So I do hope this means good things coming back to the markets because, like I've said, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies through the magic of Coinbase are probably one of the easiest investments to go turn back into solid, into liquid cash. If you got gold and silver, yes, you can take that to the pawn shop and get liquid cash out of that too. But, for Bitcoin, you can do that right from your phone. Oh shit, I need cash. Hey, Coinbase and PayPal, let's do something about this here. Let's go sell off a piece of Bitcoin and make sure that we've got diaper money, food money, etc. So when you do things start to tank and hit a little bit, that's going to be one of the first things you see drop because it's going to be in a sell cycle. But that's what we see coming off of that. That's what we see where we go. Let's grab gas. Let's talk about gas for just a second. Now, and I understand that when I make this comparison in June of 2020, the Saudis and the OPEC countries had just opened up the spigot and flooded the market, and there were ships docked, just floating in the ocean full of oil because there was no place to offload it. It was the time when we filled our strategic reserves, which Biden is working as hard as he can to empty. I understand the fact that there were reasons external to everything else, plus the low demand, because so many people were frightened to death of the fucking commie coup and not traveling anywhere. I understand that there were external factors, but that still doesn't change the fact that in June of 2020, I filled my truck, the same one that I own now, for $34, and the gas light had just come on. I started my truck up at work yesterday. The gas light came on. I went and did I did throw gas in before I went to the grocery store. So gas light came on. I went immediately to the to the gas station and threw a $30 bill in and got just a touch over a quarter tank. Whereas that 34 filled it 2 years ago. And again, even if we'd have got 4 more years of the Orange Man, I'm not anticipating we'd still have 91 cent gas. I'm not. I understand that. But I am guessing it would probably be a little bit closer to $1.50 right now. Because there are some things that wouldn't have happened. But let's look at what's happening around the Madison area outside. By the way, in the area that I live in, which is probably about 40 miles away from any of these gas stations that we're about to look at here, $3.99. The race in Sun Prairie is at $3.69. That is your low price leader. Otherwise, 378s and 379s across the board for gas. And $3.99 in town where I live. I'm afraid to go back down around the other corner and see what it is actually in town where I live. Because I bet you it's over $4. If I had to guess before going over there, I would say $4.12. And no, it's not me going over there and looking because I have no idea. But that's my guess, just based on what it is versus being in Janesville versus being here. It's usually 12 cents more here, where I live. So that's what I'm going to guess. It's going to be over at $4.12 over there, so... Or $4.11, I guess that would be. So that's what we see coming up here. Fuel. Let's grab one from IBD, see what they have to say. Dow futures drop after big stock market rally. Elon Musk receives new financing for Twitter deal. From Scott Latonin. Dow futures dropped Thursday morning in the wake of Wednesday's big Fed-driven gains. The 10-year yield ticked higher, looking to rebound from 2 straight days of losses. Etsy and Shopify stock dived more than 12% apiece after reporting earnings misses. And Twitter stock climbed after Elon Musk secured new financing for his Twitter deal. Key earnings movers Thursday included APA, CF Industries, Chesapeake Energy, Continental Resources, and Fortinet. Each of them reported late Wednesday. Meanwhile, ConocoPhillips and Shopify reported early on Thursday. Among oil producers, APA shares slid more than 2%. Chesapeake rallied about 0.5%. Continental was slightly higher, and Conoco was unchanged. Fertilizer play CF moved up less than 1%. Fortinet jumped more than 6%, and Shopify tumbled 13%. Twitter climbed 2% to Thursday after Tesla chief executive Elon Musk said he received $7 billion in new financing to fuel his deal to buy the social media company. Tesla traded down around 1% Thursday morning on pace to snap a 3-day win streak. Apple and Microsoft each moved down about 0.5% in today's stock market. Amid the market rally, attempt launched Monday. Dow leader Merck, along with Cheniere Energy, Exxon, Nutrien, and World Wrestling Entertainment were among IBD's top stocks to watch for Thursday. I didn't even know that WWE was still going, yo. I know we've seen it pop up in the earnings reports for the last couple days. I didn't know it was still going. I thought that they had folded and gone under years ago because I don't know anybody who still watches. And I'm not saying that nobody does, I just don't know. I mean, it's not televised, advertised everywhere on TV. All the old wrestlers that I know are now doing laundry detergent commercials. I'm looking at you, Steve Austin. And Tide Cold Water. Cheniere Energy, Microsoft, Nutrien, and Tesla are IBD leaderboard stocks. Exxon and Merck were featured in this week's Stocks Near Buy Zone column. On the futures, Dow today, ahead of Thursday's open, Dow futures moved down 0.4% versus fair value. S&P lost 0.6%, and the Nasdaq dropped 0.8% versus fair value. Among ETFs, the Nasdaq 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust moved down 0.7%. The SPDR S&P fell 0.6%. The 10-year Treasury yield ticked higher to 2.96% Thursday morning. On Wednesday, the 10-year hit a new 52-week high and briefly topped 3% before reversing lower. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices gained 0.8% ahead of Thursday's meeting of Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. West Texas traded just below 109 a barrel. First-time unemployment claims are expected to fall to 178,000 per Econoday estimates. Jobless data from the Labor Department is due at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We will check into that after the show. I am curious to see where that goes. On Wednesday, the major... that's actually, we're going to hold off on that for there. Let's grab one from the New York Post, as long as we go with financing. And this, like I said, was the most unexpected outcome of a Fed rate hike. And I think the futures now are reflecting this as well, so we'll see what happens with that. From the New York Post, Dow soars over 900 points as investors cheer Fed's rate hike. The Dow jumped more than 900 points after staging a late rally on Wednesday after the Federal Reserve announced its It's widely expected interest rate hike, the biggest rate increase since 2000. Stocks initially seesawed after the announcement. The indices then steadied and rose more than 2.5% following Chair Jerome Powell's press conference. The Fed on Wednesday raised its benchmark overnight interest rate by half percentage point and said it would begin shrinking the central bank's $9 trillion asset portfolio next month in an effort to further lower inflation. The central bank set its large target federal funds rate to a range between 0.75% and 1%. The unanimous decision, with further rises in borrowing costs of perhaps similar magnitude likely to follow. It's clear that the Fed understand the need to contain the soaring prices, said Greg Basuk, chief executive at AXS Investments in Port Chester, New York. Even as the Feds get more aggressive with rate hikes, we still need to grapple with the geopolitical tensions, the ongoing COVID issues, as well as those wide-ranging corporate earnings results. So now, withstanding the Fed move, I think we will still see some more volatility ahead. Investors watch Powell's news conference for fresh clues on how far and how fast the central bank is preparing to go in an effort to bring down decades-high inflation. The Dow rose 932.27 points. The Nasdaq gained 401 points, and the S&P gained 124.69 points. Concerns about hit to the economic growth due to the hawkish Fed, mixed earnings from some growth companies, and the conflict in Ukraine and pandemic-related lockdowns in China have hammered Wall Street recently, with richly valued growth stocks bearing the brunt of the sell-off. So, like I said when we looked at the numbers, I'm a little confused by this, and there is a side of me that says somebody called in a favor to try to bring the Dow back up, because what happened yesterday after the announcement makes 0 sense. With the slight exception of if you look at the fact that what's going to happen here, the big business people who are on the Dow are going to be able to weather this. And this is going to be a boon and a hammer to all their smaller investors, but still, I'm sorry, not the smaller investors, the smaller competitors. Starting up a business is about to get more expensive, and the growth stocks have the potential to come back and grow. Like I always say, the Dow, the markets, everything that we look at there, that is more of a where investors think the economy is going to go, less of what the economy is actually doing. So it's going to be something to watch. Unfortunately, without small business competitors jump up, I do fear this is going to be a jump on the unemployment rate. Not this month possibly, not next month, but a few months into the future. Which is going to take an effect on IRAs, wages, and people having jobs to go to. So there's some stuff to watch here. I don't necessarily understand or agree with what the numbers are showing me here, but we will continue to watch this. Let's grab one from CNN. Fed issues biggest rate hike in 22 years. I think we can actually skip this because I think that the New York Post covered everything. Yeah, let's skip this one. And let's start here. We're going to start the show. This was almost a thing that I hate, but I found something even more egregious. Democrats praise Biden's failing economy in Star Wars Day themed promo. Are you guys ready to cringe? Are you ready to cringe? Because we have the video that they put out here. And I will have to read the text that's floating through the air. From Ben Ziesloft. The Democrat Party social media team posted a promo for President Biden in commemoration of Star Wars Day. The brief video, entitled Episode 46, Building a Better America, was made public on Wednesday, May 4th, which is recognized as Star Wars Day due to similarity to the phrase, May the Force be with you. Which, by the way, I completely apologize for the fact that I completely forgot about Star Wars Day yesterday until I got to work, and then like, oh, hey, we'll use the Star Wars lo-fi list instead of the video game one like we usually do at the beginning of the day, the work day. But here's the video. No volume. Episode 46, Building a Better America. President Biden is building a better America. The U.S. economy has added nearly 8 million jobs since President Biden took office and experienced the greatest year of job growth under any president in history last year. Actually, I've got to pause this because I can't read out loud as fast as I can read in my head. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan, the U.S. is on track for the largest deficit cut in history. This year, $1.3 trillion. Press X to doubt. Under President Biden's leadership, we passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, a once-in-a-generation investment that will create good-paying union jobs, rebuilding our country's crumbling infrastructure. President Biden is laser-focused on lowering costs for Americans. His plan will ensure billionaires pay their fair share in taxes, continue our historic economic recovery, and bring down costs for hardworking families. Together, we're building a better America. I'm surprised, by the way. And just on some of the comments that went with this too, but I'm surprised that Disney didn't come out here with all the defense that this administration has been doing for them, and the fact that, hey, we tell our followers that they're supposed to hate it when billionaires and billionaire companies don't pay their fair share in taxes, but wink wink, nudge nudge, we do tell them that they're supposed to like it when you don't pay your fair share in taxes. I'm surprised that Disney didn't let them use the John Williams Orchestra music behind this. I was expecting to hit the volume button here and be blasted with John Williams, but we got nothing out of that. Larry Ragland Jr. was probably a bot. 10 followers, actor, gamer. He's cutting down the debt instead of the past administration adding to it. With the ratio, Justin Gruber, deficit cut isn't deficit reduction. We spent an extra $2 trillion in 20 and again in 21 because of COVID. Not printing that money is his deficit cut. It just means that he's found a new method of inflation, which admittedly is pretty impressive. Bravo. And progressive power. Abolish the filibuster. Codify Roe, expand the court, remove all federal restrictions on birth control, open women's health centers on federal land. We're waiting. And John Delkey says, he quote tweets himself, says, Democrats after the midterms. Why did we lose? We raised lots of money. Our corporate donors were happy. How did that happen? We need to analyze results. So, and this one here, I actually found this interesting here. Jonathan Mann tweets out, you keep telling me to vote, but you don't do anything. So even though they have found the fear porn to go back out and drive their people to the polls, I don't know if it's going to work because we still have this message out here. Let's listen.
You keep telling me to vote, telling me to vote, you don't do anything. You keep telling me to vote, then you're sitting on your hands and you blame the leftists, even though you're the ones in power. Fuck you. Fuck you. You said that you would cancel student debt, but then you didn't do it. You know you probably fuck you.
So, message is obviously ringing clear. I'm sure that there was a very much less cringy way to go and give that message. I'm sure there was a way to spread that message without sounding like that. But let's put that aside for a second. And start with the fact of, well, Mr. Jonathan Mann, I told you so. I told you that this administration didn't give a fuck about you. A lot of people told you that. They're not out there. They don't care about you. Neither do the neocons and neither do the MAGA populists. We're going to set them aside for right now. These people don't care about you. You were a useful idiot to go to the polls to mail in vote, to honk honk, vote twice or three times, or honk honk ballot harvest, or honk honk things that absolutely didn't happen, Susan, because this was the freest and fairest election in history, of course. But you were the little foot soldiers that went out and did this and put these people into power. How do you feel? What have I said from the start of this, from the start of election season? Put an extra row in the garden, learn to preserve, and grab an extra can of Spam when you're at the store, because they don't care about you. They don't care. Stop putting your faith in the government. And that, of course, all of this goes along with the message of where is this better America, which was also down in the comments. Okay, we're not listening to that again. Where is this better America? There is currently fencing being erected around the Supreme Court. We'll be looking at that a little bit later. There are currently protests. There are currently still. I just put $30 of gas in my truck at $4 a gallon. And spent $15 on 3 items at the grocery store. 2 of those items would be what you would normally consider to be cheap food, by the way. I'm going back on keto. Just a little bit of a side note back into what's going on in my life. Starting as soon as I get all the rest of the starchy stuff and the stuff like that out of my leftovers and such out of my fridge, and once I finish up this bag here, which now that I'm trying to grab some simple sugars to keep myself energized, is going to go quicker than I thought it was going to. I'm going back keto. So I grabbed a bag of Oreos, a box of the Velveeta mac and cheese, and a flat of wings that was on sale because it was reduced for quick sale. Because it was getting close to its sell-by date. 3 items, $15. Where is this better America coming? Explain it to me, Lucy. Explain it to me. All right, we got to keep going. All right, I wanted to, before we got into any of the main ultra MAGA news, I wanted to do this one here just because it was hilarious. I have no idea who this dude is, by the way. But apparently, those of you who are in the chat are still MAGA, which, if you're still MAGA, as much as I've insulted you, I have no idea why you're here, but thank you. Let's listen to what Miles Taylor has to say about this. And of course, he's doing this on MSDNC.
If I had quit the Bush administration where I started my career, I worked in Dick Cheney's office. If I had quit and said Bush and Cheney were bad, which I didn't believe, but if I'd quit and protest, they would have quarreled with me. Instead, defecting from the Republican Party and fighting MAGA, they don't just want to quarrel with me, they want to kill me. Okay? Because I'm going out there and saying the Republican Party, my party, has been corrupted, they want to kill me. And that's not hyperbole. We receive death threats. But
no, that's hyperbole.
It's not just the me's out there that went into this clear-eyed. It's poll workers, it's school board chairmen, it's just your neighbors that are suffering under the politics of physical intimidation by merely trying to stand up on these issues. That is what is so alarming. The physicality behind these opinions around cultural happening. If I had quit the Bush administration where...
Okay, Miles. Sit down. Well, let's have a talk, Miles. Miles. Can you see MAGA right now? Are they in the room with us? Can you hear them? Are they giving you death threats right now, Miles? Because I don't think that this is MAGA. I think you're fucking schizophrenic. And again, I have no idea who this dude even is. Apparently he worked in Cheney's office. That's enough for me to realize that he's a bombing brown kids war pig, which means he fits in quite well with today's Democrat Party. Somehow, which I can't figure the fuck back out. But apparently he is. Alright. Let's listen to President Biden. So I've got 3 video clips from the same speech, and then we'll go talk a bit about this speech. But he's got a new name for the people that don't agree with this. And by the way, going once again down the route of, campaigning on, I'm a buck stops here president. And I'm not going to blame the previous administration or my political opponents. When I'm in office, the buck stops with me. Going on to, it's the ultra MAGA people. They're the problem. So let's start here. Let's start with this one.
Let me remind you again. I reduced the federal deficit. All the talk about the deficit from my Republican friends, I love it. I've reduced it $350 billion in my first year.
Press X'd it out.
In office. And we're on track to reduce it by the end of September by another $1.5 trillion. The largest drop ever. I don't want to hear Republicans talk about deficits and their ultra MAGA agenda. I want to hear about fairness. I want to hear about decency. I want to hear about helping ordinary people.
I'm going to be a president for everybody. It's not going to be us versus them. Under my administration, like it is under my opponent, that guy over there. From that to, it is us versus them, and I don't want to hear about your ultra MAGA agenda. Another one. Talking about Rick Scott.
Heard me say it before. I'm a capitalist. I believe you should be able to
Press X'd it out.
make much money as you legally can, but just pay your fair share. There's no reason why a billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a teacher or a firefighter. That's in sharp contrast to what today's Republican Party is offering. And if they hadn't put this in print, you'd think I was making it up. Senator Rick Scott of Florida.
You are making it up.
United States Senator, who's leading the Republican National Senatorial Campaign Committee, released what he calls the Ultra MAGA Agenda. It's a MAGA agenda, all right. Let me tell you about this Ultra MAGA agenda. It's extreme, as most MAGA things are. It will actually raise taxes on 75 million American families, over 95% of whom make less than $100,000 a year. Among the hardest hit, working families, kids with folks. Imagine your
Kids with folks. 80 million votes, guys. Don't worry though. It only affect the kids with folks. Those orphan kids that are running around the streets that don't have parents or foster parents or guardians of any sort, they won't be affected by this. It'll just be kids with folks.
family of 4 and you don't make enough money to have federal taxes, You're not because you don't make enough money to pay them. You pay all your taxes, but you just don't make enough. And under this new plan, this tax plan, the ultra MAGA agenda, while big corporations and billionaires are going to pay nothing more, the working class folks are going to pay a hell of a lot more.
All right. There are a few things to go along with this. Number one, this is blame shifting, of course, because the Trump tax cuts just sunset, which means that whatever you paid this year is going to go up next year. Not because he's actively legislated for you to pay more. It's the fact that, it's sunset. They're going back to the tax rates that were before Trump was in office. That's number one. But number two, yes, it is a push to go back out and ship the blame back off this presidency. Everything that we've been seeing over the past few weeks has been trying to pin this on MAGA, on ultra-extremists, on the Supreme Court. From a presidency which, as I remind you, told us that the buck stops here. When I say something that's going to happen, it's all me. And you can bring that to the bank. I'm not going to be like the other guy and go blame my predecessor or anything like that. All right, and one more, and then we'll review this.
Well, that got struck down. Griswold was thought to be a bad decision by Bork, and my guess is the guy's on the Supreme Court now. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children?
Love to see you cite the law for that.
Is that legit under the way that the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history. Well, that got struck down. Griswold.
I mean, I've almost got to ask the same question that I asked to Miles Taylor. I mean, Mr. President, can you lay down on the couch? Mr. President, is the ultra MAGA, are they in the room with us? Can you hear them? Are they speaking to you right now? What are they saying? All right, let's read a little bit about this from CNN. Biden goes after the ultra MAGA agenda as he sharpens his midterm message. From Kate Sullivan. President Biden on Wednesday sharpened the contrast between his policies and what he derided as an ultra MAGA agenda on the right as he looks to hone his midterm message heading into high-stakes campaign season. The president zeroed in on an economic plan put forward by the leader of the Senate Republicans' campaign arm, Rick Scott of Florida, which Biden said was extreme and would raise taxes on millions of working-class American families. Scott's plan, which has been rebuked by the Senate GOP leader, Mitch McConnell, includes many Trumpian proposals and calls for completing a border wall and naming it after former President Trump. Now, see, that kind of stuff, like going in and naming it after President Trump and whatnot, there is, and I will give the leftoids this one. And if you are MAGA, by the way, cover your ears right now, because I'm about to go talk about your movement. There is a religious aspect to the MAGA movement. There is a faction of those people that truly believe that Trump is the second coming of Christ. That he's going to save us all. And yes, I know I'm hyperbolic. I know that for a while I was doing this show, it was hey, do you trust the plan yet? Was my opening tagline. Making fun of the fact that these people are coming out here and continuing to have this religious affiliation with Trump. But there were people that legitimately believed in the message of Mike Lindell, in the message of Rudy Giuliani, that the Donald was going to come riding down on a white Pegasus and save us all from the communist agenda. that if we just waited and trusted the plan, right before inauguration, even after January 6th, he would come riding down on that white Pegasus, down from heaven, in a beam of light, and vanquish the foe, Joe Biden. And unfortunately, the naming of the border wall after the former president, I'm sure that Rick Scott meant that as an insult to Joe Biden, to look up and say, hey, I've got to look up for the rest of what little bit of life I have left and say, hey, this is the Donald Trump wall. That guy, that crazy guy, he used to donate to me. And now he doesn't do that anymore. Now it's like he doesn't like me. But there is the faction there that does look at this and say, all hail the Trump wall, all hail the Trump wall. Hey, it's a MAGA agenda, all right? Let me tell you about this ultra MAGA agenda. It's extreme, as most MAGA things are, Biden said from the White House, referencing Trump's Make America Great Again slogan. I thought it was going to be Keep America Great. Our agenda is going to be Keep America Great. Bing bong. Keep America Great! Exclamation point. With control of Congress at stake this fall and many Democrats nervous about sky-high inflation and the president's low approval ratings, Biden has shifted his posture and is increasingly going on the offense against Republicans as he tries to draw a clear distinction between the parties for voters. And this is where you guys went wrong under Hillary, by the way. This is where you guys went wrong under Barack when you lost control of the House. This is where you went wrong in 2020, except for honk honk. Nothing bad happened in that election, and it was the freest and fairest election in history. Honk honk, so called. But this is where you guys always go wrong. Constantly, and I've seen it over and over again, administration after administration. It worked with Barack Obama, but he was also charismatic. And people generally liked him. He hadn't been in politics long enough, in federal politics, to make enemies. He had them, but now when you're coming with these Chuck Schumers, Nancy Pelosi's, Joe Biden's, Hillary Clinton's, who have been in the public eye for 20, 30, 40 years, when you come out here, go back and try to blame other people, it doesn't turn out well for you. Arguably, it didn't turn out well for Barack either, because after he had his ultra majority, he kept whittling away and losing it because that's all he did. You guys think there's bad stuff happening, but it's not my fault. It's the other guy. And that's what this speech reeks of. You may not like what I did, and the fact that I didn't cancel your student loans, but ooh, scary MAGA over there. Come on, man. And again, it's as the title card says, as you see below you, it is not enough for these people now to be MAGA. They must be actively ultra MAGA. To borrow a phrase from a communist university professor. Threw that editorial in for you, Ron. Love you. All right. Let's keep going. Yellen made the news this week. Treasury Secretary Yellen admits Biden's spending worsened inflation. From Carlos Garcia. Treasury Secretary Yellen admitted in an interview Wednesday that President Biden's big spending has worsened the inflation in the U.S. She made the comments in an interview with Matt Murray, the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal. As you know, One of the criticisms made for the admin and the Fed really in underestimating the toll on inflation a year ago, one of the criticisms made of the admin, and it really goes back to the prior admin as well, is government stimulus spending related to COVID. And the bill that the admin passed over the last year helped defeat this, Murray said. Is there a video of her saying this? There's a commercial. I can say that. Dude, the Blaze is so bad with ads. I'm going to go back and see if the ad blocker works again.
Secretary Yellen, thank you.
No, that's a 34-minute video. You're an economist. You understand the causes of these phenomena. What's your take on how responsible government spending was about helping to contribute to the problem we're facing right now on this front, Murray asked. So look, inflation is a matter of demand and supply, and the spending that was undertaken in the American Rescue Plan did beat the demand, Yellen added. But I do think it was justified and appropriate at the time, given the risks the economy faced, she continued. At that time, President Biden was inaugurated. We had an economy where forecasters were envisioning very high unemployment for a very long time. We had especially low-wage workers who had been laid off in massive numbers. We saw cars lined up for miles in food banks. Americans worried about not being able to feed their families, get enough to eat. Forecasts were really quite dire. So it was, yes, we know that we spent our way into massive inflation, but we had to do it. We had no other choice. People were lining up for food. And this was the justification. And again, now they're sending me letters. They're trying to foist this last inflation check on me, but I'm not the inflation check. No, it wasn't an inflation check. But the first two stimuli, the ones that I cut up, they're trying to foist and force them on me. They give me a letter that says, call this number and we'll reissue you the check, and then nobody ever answers at the number. You sit on hold for 35 minutes and they say, we're sorry, there's nobody here to answer this call. But they are trying desperately to foist it on me. But that was what I said when they sent the first stimulus check is, yeah, I don't want to be part of this inflation. I said that all the way back under the Trump era. I said, this is going to cause inflation. I don't want this. Don't send me this check. Because I don't trust the government having my bank information. And my tax accountant, by the way, laughs at me about that every year. No, you are not going to direct deposit my check. Those assholes in Kansas City are going to have to write me a check, just like they do every single year. The same one with the jackasses in Madison. Just like they do every year. I'm not giving my bank account information to the government. Fuck that. But I knew this was going to cause inflation. And I'm not a Treasury Secretary. I'm just a guy who yells into a microphone. I'm glad that Janet Yellen can finally confirm that, but I knew this was coming. You all knew this was coming. Everybody watching this program right now knew that inflation was coming off of this. And I said, no thanks. I don't want to be a part of it. So that's what we see coming off of that. So grab one from our friends over at NPR. In a special series, Roe vs. Wade and the Future of Reproductive Rights in America. The movement against abortion rights is nearing its apex. But it began way before Roe. This is from Deepa Shivaram. And remember, NPR can't come out and tell you why it's advantageous to murder your offspring. Unless you hit that donate button, they need our money, comrade, to be able to get on the microphone every day and tell you that you really can't afford your offspring, and only the rich should be allowed to reproduce. So you just go back and keep being your little wage slave. And go to that abortion. Because you can't afford that. It felt really good at the time, but you can't afford that. You can't afford that because you're giving all of our money, comrade, to us over at NPR. So, let's see what it is they have to say. Never Printing a Reality, National Progressive Radio. The Supreme Court ruled on Roe v. Wade in 1973, saying that access to abortion was protected in the United States. The decision fueled the anti-abortion movement and congealed it too. Prior to Roe, anti-abortion activists were operating on a state level, but the Supreme Court's ruling turned the movement into a national one. In the decades before the decision, opposition to abortion was a fairly bipartisan issue. In fact, many Democrats in elected positions were likely to oppose unrestricting abortion access because many represented Catholics who were largely opposed to abortion, but even then, it wasn't a politically charged topic. Now the court appears to be on the verge of overturning the right to an abortion, bringing the movement that transformed American politics over the past half-century to its apex. In the past decade, Trump was able to win the White House, in no small part because he galvanized conservative evangelicals by pledging to appoint Supreme Court justices that would overturn Roe. It was a promise he fulfilled even though Trump had previously supported abortion rights. But the history of organized opposition to abortion access started more than a century before Roe, with roots in British common law. In the early days of the country, laws often reflected British common law, and when it came to abortion, the process was determined to be by quickening. Quickening meant the moment the pregnant person could feel the fetus move, which typically happened between the 4th and 6th month of pregnancy. At that time, the only way to truly confirm the pregnancy, so the thought of life beginning at conception wasn't a factor at all. Ending the pregnancy after the quickening period was considered illegal, but it was just a misdemeanor. Even then, it was hard to prosecute because it was only the pregnant person who could attest to whether the fetus had moved. Abortions were largely accessible, without stigma at this time. But close to the mid-1800s, some doctors, who at the time were a mostly unorganized profession, sought to separate themselves from the healers and midwives who were also performing abortions. Doctors didn't have as much medical or institutional authority as they do today, and some in the profession pushed the states to pass anti-abortion laws in order to tamp down on competition. These physicians, all of whom were men, and in the mid-18th century, yes, that's all that were physicians, and who were backed by the newly founded American Medical Association, argued they had more knowledge on embryos and that the heightened medical knowledge was necessary to determine when life began. It should be noted, though, that this claim of advanced knowledge didn't actually exist in the medical community. Historians note that this argument was mostly used as a way to take away women's bodily autonomy. Oh, Jesus Christ. Now it was a doctor who could interpret their medical condition rather than just relying on whether the pregnant individual could feel the fetus move. Their efforts worked. By the early 1900s, every state had made abortion illegal, though there were exceptions made if the life of the pregnant person was at risk. So they're going to try to give you the history as to why men are evil, why they only want to control women, and it's a self-serving bullshit story. It really is. And they're going to continue to try to do this because, again, they want the fear up there that you can't go out and do whatever it is you want with no consequences. That the evil Republicans, and this is the big one for me. I commented this back out, but it does seem like there are people out there that legitimately believe that this is all because the evil Republicans want to be able to rape a blue-haired girl who's like 300 pounds and force her to carry to term. And I don't see a lot of that happening. They're going to try to tell you that it's happening, but I don't see a lot of that happening. Again, not really the person to tell you to be chaste. I know what I've done. But even there, while I was not being chaste, I went out of my way to make sure that this never came up. But here we stand once again. Let's watch Anna Kasparian, because why not? Anna Kasparian had a meltdown over the SCOTUS draft. Incredible.
We don't even have paid family leave. We don't even have affordable childcare in this freaking country. Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
And yet,
what do you want them to do with their kids when they have to go to work? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? I want them to answer that freaking question. Answer the question. Journalists, ask them the question. Ask them. Ask them.
Isn't it amazing?
Goddamn, ask them the goddamn question. God.
Isn't it amazing that not one Democrat has shown 1% of the passion that Anna has today?
They don't care.
They don't
fine.
care.
They're
They don't
fine.
care.
They're all so old, they don't even have to worry about it affecting them. And if they're young enough where it would affect them, they'll get their abortion.
They're going to fly to
They're
Paris.
trading individual stocks, enriching themselves. They're good. They're good. They don't care about you. Make sure you understand that and you feel it in your bones. They don't care about you at all.
So, rare moment of clarity from Anna Kasparian, where she's starting to realize that the Democrat Party doesn't give a fuck about their constituents. They're just coming back in for power. And yeah, if they want to go and murder their offspring for Moloch, they can go back and do that, no matter what happens out of this. They can go and murder their offspring in the name of Moloch. But you can't be saved by murdering your offspring in the name of Moloch.
All of that fundraising, all of that canvassing, all of that hard work on the ground, they can't even get a voting rights bill passed. They're losers.
Trusha Briggs writes in, thank you, Anna, for communicating this momentous injustice and the rage we're all feeling today.
Shut up, water buffalo. Nobody likes you. But, I mean, in reality, Anna's saying what a lot of, honestly, what Anna is saying is what I believe is what's driving the fact that this leak came out in the first place. The fact that, in spite of the fact that student loan forgiveness is a terrible idea, they're not moving to do anything. They're not doing the voting rights. They went out and honked an election where nothing bad happened to make sure that they had the majority, so-called, in every chamber. So they could go ram their agenda down everybody's throat, and they have no ramming of down of anybody's throat. I don't usually agree with Anna Kasparian, but stepping aside from the abortion side of this, and I'll touch on that in just a second, but Kasparian is starting to get it. The Democrat Party, and yes, largely the Republican Party too, there are a couple that I actually believe might care about the people, but they are very, very, very few and far between. Like, maybe one or two in the entire Congress. Both chambers. They don't care about you. The government does not care about you. But I want to go back just a touch over to the beginning here on where the meltdown started of what do they want to do? What do they want us to do?
We don't even have paid family leave. We don't even have affordable child care in this freaking country. Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
And yet,
what do you want them to do with their kids when they have to go to work? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? I want them to answer that freaking question.
Well, and this is what I wanted to touch on. What I want to do is build an economy with enough good paying jobs into it to where we can go back to a single family or single earner household. I want us to get out of what Elizabeth Warren calls the two-parent trap and go back to the point where, yes, one parent, and I know in some cases, I know this is going to mark against my traditional followers, but in some cases, in some families, that's not going to be the mother. I know that the last girl that I lived with, as the software developer with a six-figure job, wanted to basically make me into a stay-at-home dad so she could go back out to work and support us both with the promise that I could go and write my book, because I was and I actually still have the drafts, by the way, but I was writing a novel at the time. I would still be writing a novel, except for the fact that I chose to do this because I do want to try to build a situation where I can work from home like this, but that's getting off into the weeds. But in a situation like what she's trying to build for herself, she wants to build a single earner household where she's the earner. And I wish her luck for that. Around here, that's going to be very, very hard to find somebody to sign on board with that. But yeah, she just wants to go and pop out the kids and go back to work, essentially. And in some families, that is going to be what works. But regardless, no, that's what we want to do. We want to build an economy where we can go back to having a single earner household and still be able to afford the house, afford the kids, afford the diapers, and everything else. And still be comfortable. So we don't have to send our kids off to institutions of lesser learning, to public schools, so we can both go to work. That's what we want. That's the proposal. Anna. It is funny watching Anna start to get it, though. I will say that. Carolyn Borisenko says, who's an unwoke cult leader. I guess she is LP royalty in New Hampshire. I'm speaking right now with women who left the left in 2020 who are telling me that they will not support Republicans because of Roe. It's more important to them than how insane the left is. You really do not understand what you've done. I agree with that. I actually do agree with that, but the other side of that is, yes, that was the campaign promise that we would get justices that would take a look at Roe. And I would call that a campaign promise kept. From the Daily Wire. Leftist groups direct protesters to descend on Supreme Court justices' homes. From Mary Margaret Olahan. Activist groups are directing angry abortion protesters to the home of 6 extremist Supreme Court justices amid swelling abortion protests in major cities around the country. Reacting to a leaked draft opinion showing the court is likely to be preparing to overturn Roe v. Wade, abortion supporters protested outside the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Protesters also took place in Los Angeles, where protesters violently clashed with police, and in New York City. Now it appears that Supreme Court justices in Maryland and Virginia will be targeted by similar protests. The progressive activist group Ruth Sent Us announced Walk By Wednesday, urging protesters to come to the homes of the 6 extremist justices, 3 in Virginia, 3 in Maryland. The radical left and their dark money funders have one goal, which is to intimidate the court, Judicial Crisis Network President Carrie Severino told the Daily Wire on Wednesday morning. Yeah, it's that ultra MAGA that Joe Biden was talking about. What was it that he had to say?
Was thought to be a bad decision by Bork, and my guess is the guy's on the Supreme Court now. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Is that legit under the way that the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
Shot. Chaser. Walk By Wednesday, urging protesters to come to the homes of 6 extremist justices, 3 in Virginia, 3 in Maryland. Showing up at the justices' homes to harass them is absolutely beyond the pale and shows the lengths to which they are willing to go in order to undermine the court's independence. On the website, the group listed the street names where each justice supposedly lives with their families: Barrett, Roberts, Alito, Kavanaugh, Thomas, and Gorsuch. If you'd like to join or lead a peaceful protest, let us know. peaceful protest, the activist group said, adding in another message, our 6-3 extremist Supreme Court routinely issues rulings that hurt women, racial minorities, LGBTQ+, IARR, GMT72R, LP2XC, and immigrant rights. We must rise to force accountability using diversity of tactics. Wow. You're starting to tell that I didn't sleep real well last night. Shutdown DC is also advertising a Saturday evening candlelight vigil for Roe v. Wade, calling for abortion supporters to join us in a march to Justices Kavanaugh and Roberts' homes to protest for reproductive freedom. Do I have any video? Nope, just websites. And there's one of the tweets. Mad as hell and ready to take action for the reproductive freedom. Join these 3 actions the next 3 days. See you on the streets. So, yeah, they're going to homes. Still not advice. Definitely not advice over on Twitter. Tweets out. They seem to be barricading a lot of federal buildings these days because, quote tweeting, of course, disclosed.tv that says, now, fence erected overnight around the Supreme Court building. This is fine. Everything's fine. It's not like it's the people's taxpayer buildings or anything. It's not like we paid for those buildings. Why should we have access to them? From the New York Post. Pansexual Florida teacher canned for discussing orientation with students. From Salim Algar. A Florida teacher claims that she was fired for discussing her pansexual status with middle school students whom she then asked to draw pictures representing their own sexual orientations. Thanks, I hate it. Cape Coral art instructor Casey Scott said her students were curious about her sexual orientation, and she explained to them that she was pansexual during a lesson in March, NBC2 reported. A discussion happened in class, and because of that, now I'm fired, Scott told the outlet. Pansexual refers to somebody who's attracted to all categories of people, regardless of their sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Scott, who's married to a man, said the kids at Trafalgar Middle School then created flags representing their own sexuality and gender identities, ranging from transgender and non-binary to gay. Interesting. None of them turned up straight. It's almost like they want to be accepted by the weird teacher. And can be led to believe that there's something that they may or may not even be. And I'm not saying that all these kids are militantly super straight by any stretch of the imagination. But it's interesting that none of them came up as, well, super straight. Like our friend Arvold. The first-year teacher posted their creations to her classroom door before administrators told her to take them down. They said it would be in the best interest if I got rid of them now, she told NBC. I think there are a couple red flags here. Just one or two. Scott said she crumpled up the pictures and put them in the trash. Lee school district officials said some students understood her explanation of sexuality while others were left confused, the local NBC affiliate reported. The subject matter angered some parents and students who wrote the administrators to voice their displeasure, officials said. Scott, who was working on a probationary basis and not part of the teachers' union, was eventually told not to return to campus and that her contract was being terminated. District officials attributed her dismissal to her not following the curriculum, the outlet reported. The firing came just days before DeSantis banned instruction related to gender identity or sexual orientation for kids in the kindergarten through 4th grade. Yeah, honestly, for middle school, I think that was probably a bit of an extremist. And again, there's no reason that these kids should know. And this is an art teacher. But there's no reason that these kids should know what goes on behind Miss Scott's closed doors. The only reason, because I had an interim art teacher for a while in middle school, because there was a sudden change in the art teacher staff, and we got a new art teacher after that, but I'm an interim art teacher, and I intimately knew the details of her family, her kids, her husband, and her home life. But the only reason for that was because that she was my aunt's best friend. And I knew her from outside of school. And in fact, it was actually because of knowing her for so long and being in a small town, which actually, looking back on this now, this is a little bit weird for me, but in a small town, we're on a first name basis with the adults, and that's not something I would ever think about now. If I raised kids into that situation, it would always be Miss and Mrs., but it was so weird for her to be teaching the class and not be able to say, I'll say first name because, I mean, it's a common first name, but it was really weird for me to not say Sandy and instead say Mrs. I'm not going to say the last name out loud, obviously, because I had known the woman as Sandy for my entire life, but that is the only reason that I knew anything about any of my teachers' personal lives outside of school. The Chappelle Story. We're going to get out of here. We're running up on the clock here. The Chappelle Story, which I completely missed yesterday because we had so much else going on here. Dave Chappelle attacked. Video shows moment. Suspect tackles comedian at Hollywood Bowl. From John Gregory and ABC.com staff. I don't know if they're going to show this. Yep, they're going to show it right there. Video shows the exact moment a man ran on stage and attacked comedian Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl. The footage obtained by TMZ shows the suspect, who has since been identified as 23-year-old Isaiah Lee, running onto the stage and tackling the comedian.
Behind me on the DJ table is one of the most prolific producers that hip-hop has ever presented, the mighty Mad Lib. Wait, I gotta see this.
Oh yeah, it is right at the beginning. I'm going to say, they're not going to run this to the end of a 10-minute video, are they? I don't know, we got to refresh it though. Come on, show me the video, goddammit. Okay, apparently they took the video out. And we lost it once it was refreshed. Alright, video shows the exact moment a man ran on stage and attacked comedian Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl. The footage obtained by TMZ shows the suspect, who has since been identified as 23-year-old Isaiah Lee, running onto the stage and tackling the comedian. According to an update issued by the LAPD, on Wednesday, Lee was armed with a replica handgun knife. Police released photos of the replica, whose knife blade extends outward from underneath the gun's barrel. Lee was taken into custody Tuesday night. The video showed Chappelle falling backwards, but managed to quickly free himself as security rushed out to grab the attacker. According to ABC News, Chappelle and the man tussled on the stage floor. Security staff surrounded and tackled the man near the rear corner of the stage. Chappelle appeared to run towards the altercation, saying the man was being stomped, and asked repeatedly for security to remove the man from the stage. Exclusive footage from Air 7 HD captured the attacker on a gurney as he was being loaded onto an ambulance and being taken to a hospital for unspecified injuries because he got his ass kicked by security. Ali was booked on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon and being held on $30,000 bail. According to LAPD booking records, it's unclear what motivated Lee to run on the stage. Here is the exact argument that you use now. The next time somebody says, we just need one more gun law. And, I had this conversation about catalytic converter laws with a representative in Minnesota the other day, too. I'm introducing a bill with an amendment to crack down on the people who buy the stolen catalytic converters to take away a market from there. Well, having grown up in Minnesota, or on the border, going over to Minnesota all the time, and also, by the way, dealing with the automotive industry and scrap in Minnesota on top of it, reception of a stolen good for resale is already a crime in Minnesota. But, just one more law is going to stop them, the criminals who are already breaking the law, to get the stolen catalytic converter. That's already a crime over there, but one more law is going to stop them. But it is already, first and foremost, it's trespass if you bring a concealed weapon into the Hollywood Bowl. Which means that this dude was already breaking the law. Assault, and I'm guessing that he was up there headed out to murder. Otherwise, why do you bring a knife in and go to tackle somebody? But murder, concealed weapon, in a restricted area, those are already against the law. So do tell me why one more law is going to help, especially if they're not being enforced. Somehow, this guy got a concealed weapon with a knife in through the metal detectors into the Hollywood Bowl. And one more law is going to help. From the Daily Mail. Blockbuster movie Spider-Man No Way Home was banned in China after Sony refused the government's demands to remove scenes showing the Statue of Liberty. From Keith Griffith. Sony reportedly rejected the Chinese government's demand to remove scenes featuring the Statue of Liberty from Spider-Man No Way Home. The dispute occurred in late 2021 when Sony executives were working desperately to secure a Chinese release date for the Tom Holland blockbuster, according to a report on Sunday from Puck. Although the Statue of Liberty plays a minor role in the movie's climactic scene, Chinese censors insisted that it be digitally removed, multiple sources told the outlet. When Sony rejected the request, the Chinese government then asked if the icon of the American freedom could be minimized by cutting key shots and darkening the lighting to obscure the statue. The studio also declined to do so. I mean, it's kind of hard to cut that out of a movie. Yo. That would be kind of a hard thing to edit out, wouldn't you think? No Way Home, which grossed $805 million in North America, never received a Chinese release date, effectively banning it from theaters there, but the reason had never been made clear. Well, it's because the Chinese don't want their people to go get any ideas about the fact that they might be free. And good on Sony, by the way. I don't say that very often because, well, let's be honest, it's Sony. But good on Sony. You made the art, you want it to be seen the way that you made it. Good on you. Now stop being woke-tivists. From the New York Post. Taylor Lorenz walks back harassment allegation against Drudge editor. From Ariel Zilber. Man, this woman cannot catch a break, can she? Which is good, because she's kind of a cunt. Taylor Lorenz, the controversial Washington Post technology columnist, walked back claims that she was relentlessly harassed by an editor at the Drudge Report. Lorenz on Monday tweeted that the Drudge Report staffer kept contacting her and vowed that he would destroy her career. After calling and texting me relentlessly for the past couple weeks, the Drudge Reporter editor just called my personal cell phone number, yelled at me when I asked him to leave me alone, and said that he would blast my name all over Drudge Report until it ruins my career, Lorenz tweeted. Now, I don't believe that this happened, but the irony of having the fear of having your name and personal information released is, well, it's just rich. But Drudge Report founder Matt Drudge later told CNN that he never contacted her, nor has anyone associated with Drudge Report. He demanded that Lorenz issue a correction. Lorenz later deleted the tweet and posted a clarification. For anyone who saw my post about this man claiming to be from Drudge, calling me nonstop, good news. I heard from Matt, and this man has zero power over Drudge, Lorenz said. He's claiming to be an editor all over the internet, but he's not. Sorry to disappoint everyone, saying that Drudge is based. Oh, jeez. Lorenz later told CNN that her initial tweet was a joke, and she thought it was hilarious that people believe her career couldn't have been endangered by the Drudge Report. Oh, jeez. No, it's a fact of you made this up, you got fucking caught. And now you're trying to save face off of this. I'm happy to correct the record that I have no drama with the Drudge Report, Lorenz said. I didn't even realize the Drudge Report was still around, but again, it is rich the irony of the fact that this is the person who doxed the Libs of TikTok account, who's now afraid of being doxed herself. And by the way, I don't think that she should be doxed. I don't think there should be a retaliatory doxing of Taylor Lorenz. What she did sucks, but it's just like what I said with that girl from Canada that was super into me before, until I compared somebody in a bar getting you drunk and then convincing you to take the vaccine, the holy jab. I compared that to date rape. And she got so mad and then she wished that I would be raped. I can't do that. Yes, it sucks that Taylor Lorenz doxed Libs of TikTok, but let's not dox Taylor Lorenz. Let's not do that kind of shit. Because that sucks. In fact, that's the one thing you can get banned for in my chat. Is doxing other people. Everything else is a mutable offense, but name calling, everything else like that, that gets you muted. The only thing you can really get banned for here is doxing. Because I have that big of a problem with it. So let's not dox Taylor Lorenz, seriously. What do we have? 20 after? I think we got to start wrapping it up here. So we've got two things I like and a thing that I hate. What else do we have to go over for news? Let's do this one. I think this will be the last one. Then we'll do things that I like and thing that I hate. Protesters attempt to enter LA mayoral debate venue as BLM leader. Professor is removed by police. From no author given. It was written by a robot. Before the LA mayoral debate, Melina Abdullah, a BLM leader and professor at Cal State, entered the venue without a ticket. Abdullah was removed from the venue by campus police. The incident was captured on cell phone video. Additionally, a small group of protesters tried to force their way in with some banging on the glass doors of the student union. They were also escorted away. That's it. That's the article. Could have been a tweet. Let's do one more. And then we'll do things I like and things that I hate. Then we'll have 3 articles on the stack ready to go for tomorrow. From the Daily Wire, DC Elementary School hosts anti-racism fight club assembly with fist book for students. Dude, what's the first rule of Fight Club? You never talk about Fight Club. And I know that, and I haven't seen that movie. And I still know that. Some politicians continue to insist that critical race theory isn't being taught in elementary schools, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. One of the latest examples to go to public comes from Janney Elementary School in Washington, where students in preschool through 3rd grade were presented with an assembly on being anti-racist. A November 30th letter from school principal Danielle Singh detailed the event. Fox News reported speaker Doyen Richards, author of Anti-Racism Fight Club Fist Book for Kids, visited the elementary school to discuss some of the topics presented in the book. Doyen, what's the first rule of Fight Club? As part of this work, each student has a fist book to help continue the dialogue at school and home, Singh's letter to parents read. We recognize that any time we engage topics such as race and equity, we may experience a variety of emotions. That's a normal part of the learning and growing process as a school community. We want to continue the dialogue with our students and understanding this is just the beginning. The linked document to Richard's first fist book, does acknowledge that white people can experience racial prejudice, while also firmly asserting that white privilege is real and inescapable. The text says that white people are part of the society that benefits them in almost every instance, and that it's as if white people walk around with an invisible force field because they hold all the power in America. If you're a white person, white privilege is something you were born with, and it simply means that your life is not more difficult due to the color of your skin, says the Fist Book for Kids. Put differently, it's not your fault for having white privilege, but it's your fault for choosing to ignore it. And this is going to an elementary school. But you know what? It doesn't explicitly say critical race theory. So let's just believe that it's not critical race theory. It's just teaching white kids to hate themselves because they're white. That they made the choice to choose to ignore it. Alright. Well, on that, like I said, we'll save these 3 for tomorrow. Let's do things that I like and things that I hate and head out of here for the day. First thing that I like today. Now, normally this would not be something that would come up to thing that I like, but when we go over to my profile, which we'll use from here, I'll explain why this is the thing that I like. So, Barbara Geffen tweets out a tremendously stupid tweet, and she actually got ratioed to fucking death for it. And she's a stan with Ukraine. So, I mean, you can look into what's in her bio and understand how actual leftoid this woman is. But she tweets out, if abortions are banned, the father of each infant must be determined by DNA testing. Dads must be required by law to pay child support until age 18 and or, if a pregnancy via rape or incest, assume all parental responsibility if mom wants. And I replied, and I made a quote tweet saying something different, but I replied and I said, your terms are acceptable. Because people like Barbara Geffen have no idea what the conservative movement wants. And I'm not even conservative, but what the conservative movement actually wants out of this. And that is to have more families at home with a mommy and a daddy. And unfortunately, not all these homes can have the mommy and daddy in home. Yeah, there are some times when mom and dad can't get along and they have to go their separate ways. But you still want to have mommy and daddy in the life of the child through support, through visitation, through a parental responsibility. Yes, we want that. But the big thing about this is, A, this is already happening, and B, DNA testing would streamline the process, especially for the instances where you have the accident and mommy doesn't know who the daddy is because she's had 17 partners in the middle of her menstrual cycle. We're not going to do that social commentary right now. What I like about this, and this is not the first case of this, and I'll go into my profile here. Thank you, Quest Fanning, for the advertisement, by the way. Gotta say that as we're going by here. What I said about this tweet when I quote tweeted this was, if only there was a state contract that would require the mommy and the daddy to act in the best interest of each other and the child, and be financially supportive of each other and their offspring. If only there was a contract where, you stood in front of either all your friends and family and your church or the justice of the peace, in some cases if you're not religious, and said, I solemnly swear to love and protect and respect, to have and to hold. It's amazing to know those words considering I've never gone through that ceremony. If only there was an actual contract that you could do that to make sure all this happens. If only there was a reason to do that. And I'm very impressed when I see these progressives, these leftoids, number one, start to understand personal responsibility. Because, yes, we do want the personal... It's just like the article we read yesterday. This overturning of Roe could destroy hookup culture. Okay. Cool. The father might have to be responsible. Okay. Cool. Give him a reason to go get married to mommy. Put a ring on that shit if he wants to hit it. And then, of course, yes, they're talking about laws to require the parents to stay together. Or, the big one for me is, we're going to go on a sex strike. We're not going to have sex with men that we're not married to until this shit gets fixed. You realize that's exactly what the evangelicals wanted you to do in the first place. Who's really winning when you go back and do this kind of stuff? I don't know. But it's kind of impressive to see. That's one of the things that I like, is these people starting to discover personal responsibility in marriage. I like that. I enjoy that. Alright, another thing that I like today, just because, sometimes we'll just sit back and look at what I'm watching on, well, in this case it's going to be Paramount Plus. I couldn't tell you the last time I opened up Netflix, I'm not going to lie. There's just nothing on there that interests me right now that Trek has been taken off. Well, Deep Space Nine is still on there, but I can watch that on Paramount Plus, which I now also have. But I started watching Lower Decks and was oddly surprised. In the progressive Roddenberry world, where men and women work alongside by side, there's gender blindness, there's color blindness, etc. There's even racial blindness, and there is still a vast diversity of multiculturalism and respect for the other cultures on top of it. This is a series that, being halfway through the first season, is surprisingly crude and unwoke. It is surprisingly gritty. Now, before we actually watch the trailer on this, I kind of want to make a little bit of commentary towards what I see off of Lower Decks versus what I've seen. Because I'm also watching Next Generation right now. We actually watched the trailer for Next Generation a few weeks ago. What I see on Next Generation versus what I see off Lower Decks is, it's incredible to see. Now, first off, the people on the Lower Decks, most of them would not be officers. In the series, everybody has officer pins. Most of them would be just crewmen. Petty officers. Or sailors. I don't know what they call sailors in space. But in the series, I think everybody that's involved is an ensign, which means that they've all gone to officer school. And for the environment they're trying to push off of here, that would not be the case. I'm sorry. Most of them would not be officers. Most of them would just be enlisted men and women. But this is a stark contrast between what we see among the ensigns, lieutenants, commanders, captains, and lieutenant commanders that we traditionally see in a Star Trek series versus the people that are actually making this ship work. The people, the working men, who talk to each other in a different way because they are, the black collar in this series, but they are the blue collar workers. It's interesting to see the blue collar workers in Roddenberry's socialist utopia. So let's have a look at what Lower Decks looks like. This is the trailer for Paramount Plus's series, and it was kind of enjoyable. If you have access to Paramount Plus, whether legitimate or I don't want to hear about it otherwise, I know what you guys do. Go check this one out. This one is actually kind of worth it.
Captain's Log. Stardate 57436.2. First contact is a delicate, high-stakes operation of diplomacy. One must be ready for anything.
Are you pretending to do a captain's log?
We're all supposed to keep logs.
Okay, let me listen to it.
No, go away. Leave me alone.
I can't believe you're wasting your shore leave on this.
I can't believe it! This is the greatest ship I've ever seen!
Hey, you! Green girl! Pump this! Don't pass out.
Sorry.
I'm good at exploring strange new worlds and solving space mysteries.
Let's see what I got assigned.
Holodeck waste removal.
That's Klingon prison stuff.
Ensign, do you see a captain's chair in your future?
I hope so, ma'am. Hey, if I part my hair like this, do I look more promotable or less?
The Cerritos might be falling apart, but that's our job to keep it together.
Ensign, you are a natural-born warrior.
Okie dokie.
And we're here?
No, we're actually way down here.
Keep it moving, Lower Decks.
Next.
My senior staff are always up for a challenge.
Nothing like a cold beer after a smooth second contact.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah!
It is better down here where the real action is.
We're gonna surf side by side.
An elite team. We're not really elite. We're more like the cool, scrappy underdogs.
We are so getting fired for this.
Attention all decks! Lives are at stake. But our crew is ready and focused.
Ooh, this is the new shuttle with the blast shield. The blast
Stop it.
shield
No,
is the
this
blast shield.
works.
And
Yeah,
it
it
comes
works.
down and it
You
goes
don't have
up.
to.
Blast
Stop it.
shield.
Stop it.
We live on a spaceship. Nobody is dying from a spear wound. Hang in there. You got this.
Space, the funnest frontier? Long-range sensors have located a very sexy...
Oh, no. Definitely no to this and also that.
You almost phasered me!
Calm down. It's set to, it was set to stun.
Like I say, and then, I do understand that the communist ideals of Roddenberry's, and they are present in this, and yes, I understand the Mary Sue aspect that Randy's pointed out as well. There are conflicts with the chick. And the Mary Sue aspect, to me, does seem like she almost had to be because of the fact that the captain, the officer, is her mother. We find out in, spoiler alert, a couple episodes in. I do think that was written in because they have to be, but to see the blue-collar aspect of Star Trek, I think is really interesting. I think it's kind of cool because other than this, who have we seen on Star Trek that wasn't an officer? O'Brien. Well, for a main cast anyway. O'Brien, that's it. That's the only person on Trek that we've seen that isn't an officer, that is an everyday working man. And to actually explore that aspect of what keeps everything going, I think is cool. They could turn down the Mary Sue, I will admit to that, on the main character, but again, to see that aspect of it, it's really cool. I like it. And if you do if you do see it, if you've got a chance to, whether, like I said, legitimately paid for or other ways that I don't want to know about, check this one out. And now for a thing that I hate. Insider this week tells us about a California startup offering cocoon-like pods to allow 14 residents to live in a single house as an escape from massive real estate prices. You will live in the pod. You will eat the bugs. This is literally the pod. From Dominic Reuter. As rents and home prices soar to new heights, one California co-living startup has offered a novel sleeping pod designed to fit more residents into a single-family home. Brownstone Shared Housing has 2 locations. The first is just minutes away from Stanford in Palo Alto and houses 14, while the second sleeps 6 in central Bakersfield. We started with how can we house as many people as possible in an existing space in a way that preserves dignity and comfort and privacy, CEO James Stallworth, who co-founded the self-financed Brownstone with Christina Lennox, said in an interview with Insider. Both houses are fully furnished with shared co-working and living spaces along with 2 bathrooms and a shared kitchen. Yo, you've got 14 people living out of that kitchen. Are you out of your fucking mind? That kitchen will barely hold a single family and feed all of them. What makes the concept difficult is the fully equipped sleeping pods that the company says are 40% larger than a traditional bunk bed. The structure, custom designed by Lennox, is crafted by a custom steel manufacturer before Lennox and Stallworth add the wood and electrical components themselves. The cocoon-like quarters, thanks I hate it, include power outlets, fold-down desks, lighting, and fans, and are larger than similar capsules found in some Japanese hotel. Thanks I hate it. Palo Alto's broad acceptance of multiple roommate scenarios a la HBO Silicon Valley made the city a good proving grounds for the company, but the concept could face a tougher challenge in places where conventions or regulations limit the number of people who can share a single home. At $800 a month, which includes utilities, the cost of a pod is less than half the rent of a studio apartment in Palo Alto. Jeez! Fuck, I've got a separate bedroom, a kitchen, a full kitchen, and a living room that I can broadcast from for less than that. Dude, stop living in California, jeez. Meanwhile, the median sale price topped $4 million in March for a single-family home, according to Redfin. Stallworth said the Palo Alto house currently has 1 vacancy, which he's currently screening applicants to fill. Not all who apply are automatically accepted, and existing residents are often consulted about which candidates they'd prefer to join the house. Even the newer Bakersfield house is already halfway full, Stallworth said, owing to a years-long housing shortage that has seen vacancy rate below 1%. Well, some of that is restrictions that don't allow people to build. Though Stallworth and Lennox expected their Bakersfield residents to be mostly medical students and residents, it's honestly just regular people who work and just need a place to live. Thanks. I hate it. It's so hard to find a place like that, and we're filling that need. He had it. You will live in the pod. You will eat the bugs. You will own nothing, and you will like it. No, thank you. I do not want this to be the only space that I'm allotted. Fuck that. No. No, that's not a thing. That is not a thing, yo. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but I look at this and I say, no. No, what is it? 8x4? No, I'd rather have like 45 acres or something. 8x4, no. No, that's not going to be a thing for me. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. All right. But with that, it is 20 to 10. I got to get the fuck out of here, yo. I hope I can stay awake through the rest of my day. Where's my outro music? All right, so with that, now that we see something that I really, really hate, and on top of some things that I do actually very much like, we're going to head out of here for the day. So we'll be back here tomorrow. By the way, tomorrow is Friday, which means that if you guys were just lurking, if you put or at least get a message in there, I will write your name in this notebook here, and tomorrow at the end of the show at this time, well, hopefully before this, because I will have to head off and go to work at some point too, I will be saying thank you to everybody who chatted in the live chat, everybody who lurked, who listened. As long as you get one message in, and I know that you are here, I'll come by and say, hey, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for coming and enjoying my programming. Thank you for coming and chatting with us. Thank you for having a good time, and thank you for meeting your fellow people here. But we'll be back here tomorrow. Plus, we'll actually read some of the live chat on air tomorrow too, because that's me giving back to you guys for being so kind as to spend your morning with me and have your morning coffee. And I know, again, forever, we're not going to be able to do this, but for right now we can. Otherwise, yeah, join us here tomorrow for more news, more headlines. I'm sure we'll be talking more about Ultra MAGA. We'll probably talk more about abortion. We'll probably talk, well, we've got these 3 articles here as well that we've got to get to. So we will see you guys here tomorrow for more Contemporary. If you're on Twitch, stick around as we go rating. We will see you then, and until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.